Okay, good afternoon. So I'm trying to bore you with 101 things that software did not learn in architecture school today. So, as we talk about architecture, I think it would be only prudent to define what it is. Therefore, I have a little confession to make. My wife is an architect. This kind of architect. That's the kind of things she designs, not the nebulous boxes on a page or in a PowerPoint, even better. And I sometimes call myself a software architect. Only I don't, because I don't believe that whatever we do in software should or could be called architecture. Because let's figure out what happens when we think that way. So it turns out that what we would like is something like this. You know, a beautiful design. This is Tadao Ando, Church of Light. What an elegant and simple design, if only our software project turned out to be this way. It turns out that the way we think about architecture still, and this is one quote from Bob Martin, Uncle Bob. What he says is that as you go through your design or implementation of your system, eventually and pretty early, some sort of architecture will emerge or will be there in place, and then you just iterate over that. And I'm sure every single software engineer in this room have had this as their experience, right? Wow, greenfield project, finally, I'm going to get it right. And eventually, you always end up with this. Okay? Does anyone recognize this experience? Come on, I should see all the hands up. Thank you very much. Exactly. Okay, so if that's the case, what do we do? Well, so I have this really, maybe not an easy thought to digest, but what if the reason why we end up like that is because we actually tried to use the ideas of the building architecture and misinterpreted them a little bit and try to apply them to how we build software. Okay? So what if, instead, we actually looked at how architects work? There is this wonderful little book, and I am eternally in debt with Kevlin Henney for showing me this book. I ordered the first copy. It arrived at home. Within 5 minutes, my wife took it away from me. I had to order another copy. Then I took it to work. Within 5 minutes, an architect took it away from me, so I had to order another copy. Now with 5 copies spare at home, I think it'll last me for a few days. So it turns out that this book gives some amazing advice that is so applicable to software, I was not expecting it. And my challenge for the next 3 minutes for you is to look at this advice for architects and try to think how that applies to your software projects. And I bet you might have at least one aha moment. So, anyone knows what this is? Oscar Niemeyer. This is, I believe, in Brazil. Look at this. Beautiful architecture made of very, very simple shapes. Okay? It turns out that beauty is more due to the harmonious relationships amongst the elements of a composition than to the elements themselves. Okay? Anyone recognizes that? Interfaces, relationships, microservices interacting just in the right way. Okay? We've known that for a long time in architecture. Okay. This is a French architect, Corbusier. He's known for these kind of buildings. And I believe if you go to France, you'll find them at least in a couple of big cities. So this is the second principle, which is that if you create, you can create architectural richness through informed simplicity or interaction of the simple things, rather than through unnecessarily busy agglomerations. Right? if any of you have ever seen a class that takes in its constructor 52 other instances of other classes, I have certainly seen this, right? If your test setup takes 100 lines of code just to create the dependencies for the one class you're trying to test, then maybe you ended up with the busy agglomerations, but not with the interaction of simple components. Okay? Look how this building in the US by Le Corbusier fits with the surrounding, with the environment. This is by far my favorite principle, that a proper building grows naturally, logically, and poetically out of its own conditions, of the environment. All we have to do is this. Does this still hold true? I believe so. Okay, and then finally my favorite rule, which you can break down a little bit. So, and this needs maybe a little bit more explanation. So architects believe that being process-oriented, not product-driven, is the most important and difficult thing for a designer or for an architect. And that means that we understand the problem before we chase the solution. That we are slow to fall in love with our solutions. Anyone seen this? No, we can't change this architecture. It's perfect now. That we make decisions holistically, not individual bits, that we look at the big picture. And that we accept as normal the anxiety that comes from not knowing what to do. Okay? So this is a beautiful cathedral that has been built. It was the biggest dome, and it might still be the biggest dome. And we had no physics or mathematics to understand how to build this when it was built. Okay? Because properly gaining the control of the design process tends to feel like we're just losing the control. That's something I would like you to keep in your mind, that if you are too much in control, then you have probably lost control of your design process, or maybe even of your organization. Okay, so I wish you can all build beautiful structures like this, Calatrava in Spain. And with this, thank you very much.